Hey everyone, today we're ranking the meme add-ons of every killer, from least to most fun. My rules for what is and what isn't a meme add-on are quite simple. The add-on has to nerf the killer, and it has to give a BP bonus. That's it. If the add-on doesn't fit those rules, it isn't included here. Let's get into it. Starting out with the least fun of the meme add-ons, Speed Limiter. And specifically Hillbilly Speed Limiter. This add-on makes your insta-down chainsaw into a chainsaw that only applies a single health state of damage. Using this add-on produced some of the most miserable games I have ever played. I suck at Billy anyway, so with this it was just even worse. This add-on removes your power basically. The chainsaw becomes so much weaker in chase, and you're better off just making it a map traversal tool instead, and then using your basic attack. Not fun. Next up we have Videotape Copy. Videotape Copy is an add-on for the Onryo that makes it so when you project to a TV, close to a survivor, you do not inflict condemned. The thing I don't like about this add-on is mainly just that it removes probably the most fun and entertaining aspect of Sadako's power with her condemnation. The lack of ability to apply condemned by teleporting close to a survivor basically means no one is ever condemned, like at all. There's no reason really to move the VHS tapes as survivor if you aren't progressing with condemnation. So yeah, this add-on is just a slightly more boring Sadako, without the looming threat of condemnation. It doesn't nerf her that much, at least. Placebo Tablet is a blight add-on that slows your rushes down by 15%. This feels so bad. Oh my. I'm so used to running stuff like Blighted Crow or Rat, and with this, my rushes felt even slower. With the slower speed, it also felt like I was sliding off of so many things that I would usually bounce from. Not much to say about this. Basically, it's an add-on that slows a speed-based killer down. It does not feel good, and is not fun to use. Maybe as the name of the add-on suggests, it is a placebo effect, but I certainly felt like I could feel the difference, and it did not feel good. The kid's drawing for Freddy is near unnoticeable, so the game was kinda fine. Not that fun, but not that bad either. This add-on makes your snares apply 5% less of a reduction to movement speed when triggered by a survivor. This brings them from a 15% reduction to a 10% reduction. It sounds like a lot, but as you're using these mid-loop a lot of the time, it really doesn't make much difference, having the survivor slowed by 5% extra. Overall, a pretty normal feeling Freddy game when I ran this. Dull Bracelet is a nurse add-on that decreases your maximum blink distance by 20%. This is almost identical, I found, to regular nurse, which I find boring to begin with. It was noticeable, but not that huge of a change for a character who's already the strongest. There were a few annoying moments where I couldn't blink between floors, but that was the extent of it. It was just okay using this add-on. Moving on, we have Memento Blades. Memento Blades is an add-on for the Trickster that requires you to hit one additional blade before a survivor takes damage. Instead of the usual 6, it's now 7. What I found with this add-on was that I basically just became a basic attack Trickster, using my blades to hurt survivors and less so for damage. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that fun either, I wouldn't say, and the extra blade hit was quite noticeable and frustrating. It's a small but surprisingly considerable nerf to your power. With that said, I didn't mind it largely, and it was very slightly fun having this nerf and playing in an altered way. Rotten Pumpkin is an add-on for the Demogorgon, which makes your portals break after entering them. This add-on is just very strange. And yeah, largely just a detriment. It does create a sort of fun mini-game where your portals break behind you, and you have to be quite decisive with how you move between them. It kind of wears off though after the first couple times. It's an interesting gimmick, but it eventually just gets a bit annoying. I think it would work better if they were destroyed upon arrival to a portal, instead of destroying the one you left from. I don't know, I just found this add-on very mediocre to use. Not unfun, but not really fun either. Bent Nail is an add-on for the Cenobite, and makes it so when you land a hit with your chain shot, it spawns in only one additional chain, instead of 2. This didn't make too much of a difference, it didn't feel like. I would say it felt just like a very slightly harder game of Pinhead, but not much else. The lack of a chain does make a difference for sure, but I think it's still perfectly manageable with just the 2 instead of 3. It depends how you typically decide to use the chain shot, I suppose. For the way I play, it felt like a fairly regular game of Pinhead, which is, you know, pretty fun. A tad more challenging. Speed limiter for Cannibal does the same as Billy's speed limiter, making your chainsaw only damage for a single health state upon hitting. Now, this isn't so bad for Bubba, as his chainsaw sweeps, and he can pretty much insta-down still if you angle it correctly, or simply land 2 back-to-back blows. It's a fairly tough challenge, and you are largely better off just using basic attacks. I played awfully with this add-on, but getting those downs with speed limiter was weirdly satisfying. It wasn't many, but it actually was pretty fun, and made the games worthwhile. Next up, we have Never Sleep Pills. Never Sleep Pills is an add-on for the Legion that reduces your movement speed to 4.6 meters per second when in Feral Frenzy, down from 5.2. Also, Feral Frenzy lasts 10 seconds longer. This add-on is kind of it's okay. It's not the most fun, and it doesn't feel great to only move at 4.6 in your power, but once you get a hit and gain your first movement speed boost, it isn't so bad. I personally didn't have much fun with this, and it didn't feel particularly challenging either. The extra 10 seconds pretty much cancels out the reduced speed, so it really isn't that bad. It's a change, just not really an exciting one. A bit like Blight's Placebo, it just slows down a speed-based killer, which just doesn't feel good. Still a fairly harmless change to the Legion overall, for some extra BP. In terms of fun, it was alright. Next, we have Padded Jaws for the Trapper. This add-on makes your traps apply no damage. If a healthy survivor steps in a trap, then escapes, they come out completely healthy. This add-on is just really depressing. You get a trap and you're like, oh yeah, cool. Then they escape completely unscathed. It's very demoralizing. The traps also make this really pathetic sound too. They have like an alternate sound effect, which I do think is cool. This add-on isn't completely useless either, as you can still trap people and grab them out of the traps, which does insta-down them, which is something, I suppose. There is a weird element of painful fun with this add-on that I didn't expect, to be honest. A challenge for sure. Rickety Chain is a Deathslinger add-on that makes your chain break 33% faster. This really doesn't affect much. There was only one time where this add-on made me not land an attack after hitting someone with my chain. Other than that though, it felt like normal Slinger, able to easily shut down loops. Yep, I really didn't feel a difference. So, normal-ish Slinger game with extra BP. Pretty fun. White Nit Comb is an add-on for the Nurse that makes your post-blink lunges 50% shorter. This one is a little bit like Blight's Placebo Tablet, where it just makes a fairly smooth power feel very off-kilter and awkward. It's surprising how much I found I relied on the post-blink lunge for Nurse. This add-on is actually a decent tool for learning precision blinks, I think. I found it very frustrating early on, feeling like I just couldn't quite reach anyone, but eventually I kind of got the hang of it, and overall it was pretty enjoyable. It actually felt like a pretty fair nerf to the Nurse. Yeah, overall pretty fun. Scarred Hand is a purple add-on for the Hag, which makes you unable to teleport to traps, with the upside being that your traps now become solid and can body block survivors. This is a sizable nerf. The game I played with this, I got the RPD, and I tried to play fairly normally, setting up an area and trying to hold it. This just didn't work though. The survivors could easily trigger the traps and get away, and there wasn't much I could do because I couldn't teleport. It struck me pretty early on that trying to play this way just wasn't going to work, so I decided to camp. I feel absolutely awful, but it was pretty fun. Due to the RPD's narrow halls, I could just block a hook survivor into a set area, and a survivor coming for a save just couldn't reach them, because they'd get blocked. Admittedly, I think I kind of made this one more fun than it has any right to be. I got pretty lucky with the RPD's narrow halls, which made going through a certain area nearly impossible. It had some funny moments, but I could see this being pretty miserable on most of the maps that aren't indoors, or if you were to play a more regular match without camping. I know, I feel awful for this game. Let's move on. Party Bottle is an add-on for Clown that basically just makes your bottle spew confetti. This one probably nerfs you the least out of any of these add-ons, but I would argue it still does very slightly nerf you due to the loud confetti noise upon the bottle landing. It's fun to have confetti come out of your bottles. I typically use this for Clown just normally, because yeah, it's just a nice little fun effect to have. Next up we have Vanity Mirror. Vanity Mirror is an add-on for the Shape. This add-on makes you unable to level up past tier 2. However, when stalking in tier 2, you can see the auras of all survivors in a 16 meter range, which is the size of your terror radius in tier 2, so if they can hear you, you can see them. This add-on is pretty fun, and does let you make some cool plays where you can easily mind game loops and such, or simply easily track the position of survivors, particularly ones who like lockers. The main downside of this is the fairly small area you can reveal auras in, and also that you can't enter tier 3, which is always fun to do. Still, this presents a new kind of gameplay, and a new type of fun. The beast Soot is an add-on for the Wraith, which makes it so when you cloak, you go undetectable, but you can still be heard. So you're moving around in your invisible state, but you have a terror radius. This add-on is actually pretty fun, despite it essentially removing a whole aspect of your power. It creates this weird confusion in the survivors, as they can hear you, but they can't see you, often making them panic or make a questionable play. The general chase of Wraith is still basically the same too. This is a really weird one, but one I had fun with. And I think it could be even more fun with a build built around it. There's a really great Spooky Loops video on this add-on that you should go watch actually. I'll link it below. Next up, Videotape Tablet Fragment was an add-on I had a shocking amount of fun with. This is an add-on I would honestly use again, and play more with, because I really liked it. This add-on is for Plague, and makes it so you can no longer infect survivors by being sick on them. You instead have to infect them by infecting objects first. Once they interact with the objects, they then become infected. Again, it doesn't sound very fun, but I had a surprisingly good time with it. I enjoyed this kind of new perspective on Plague, having to play in a very indirect way, but still infecting, and still maintaining pressure. It was an interesting experience. This add-on does have a small benefit, which is increasing the duration objects are infected for by 40 seconds, and also infected objects apply infection twice as fast, which does definitely make this easier to manage. It's still undoubtedly worse than her normal power, but it's a fun little mini-game to play for sure, aiming instead for window vaults, pallets, generators, and even totems to infect survivors, instead of doing it directly. At the very top though, we have Scratched Mirror for the shape. Unfortunately, this add-on just can't be topped when it comes to meme add-ons. I love using this add-on. It's probably even my favourite way to play shape. This add-on permanently restricts you to tier 1. It alters your stalk to now become an aura tool, allowing you to see all survivors in a 32 meter range. This means you have wall hacks and you're undetectable, making you the perfect jump scare machine, particularly on confined and indoor maps. Super fun, and a good challenge on maps that aren't confined or indoors. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and be sure to drop your own experiences with these add-ons down below. Thanks, and goodbye.